All right, number 2 on the list is a name that, and I'm going to be honest with you, I probably can't say his last name right now. I really didn't know about this kid until he ended up on the Canada roster for the World Baseball Classic, if I remember right. It's an outfielder named Nick Weglars. I'm glad you could say that for me. 6'3", 255. That means he is a big boy.
And he's rock solid. I mean, there's not an ounce of fat on him. I mean, he's 6'3", 255. He's 21. So he's still getting bigger. He was in Lake County 2 years ago, and he was about 210, 215. And in the last year and a half, he's put on like 40 pounds. And it's all muscle. And this guy, he's put on some awesome hitting displays and batting practice and spring training this year out in Canada. Right now, with that team, he's a focal point of that team. And I guess the best way to kind of compare him as a guy right now at this level is Jim Thome.
Wow.
That's what people kind of see out of him, where he's got that great plate discipline and that unbelievable left-handed swing with the ball that just goes a long distance.
The highest he got last year was high A, Kenston, right? So there's another guy, Akron.
Yeah.
So you're telling me the middle of Akron's lineup where he's going to probably be?
And he spent, he was in the Olympics. He was on the Canadian roster last year, and he hit 2 bombs against Cuba last year. And one hit the flagpole in center field.
I do remember that.
It was like 500 feet that they estimated. So, I mean, he's just got some just unbelievable power. And again, he's a great clubhouse, great makeup guy. So, obviously, that's going to fit in well with the Indians.
Well, that's the Indians' way. Now, most people would be surprised, Tony, that we have talked about the top 2 prospects in baseball, and we've talked about trades, and we haven't talked about Matt Laporta.
Yeah.
And Matt Laporta, to many, I want to say Baseball America ranked, I think he was right in the top 10.
He was
2, I think. He was number 2. So, and I've read your stuff. I believe in your stuff. But if Matt Laporta is number 3 on your list, why is he number 2 in Baseball Americas?
This was the thing where it was a last-minute change for me. I mean, Weglars and Laporta are side by side, and this is one of those things where I think Weglars, just that power and that play discipline thing, where he has the potential. He can be a 40 home run guy, and he's going to be a dominant left-handed hitter. Where, I think Laporta kind of struggled a little bit last year, but a lot of it was because all that movement he had. It was a tough year.
His grandfather, I think, passed. He was trying to play on the Olympics. It was a million things going on for him.
In a span of 2 months, he was in Taiwan, Florida, New York, California. So,
traded.
So it's hard to judge him by that, but it's one of those things where I just gave the edge to Weglars because I think he's going to be a little bit more of an impact hitter.
All right, well, with Laporta, see, this is what... And obviously these are prospects. And obviously you and I right now, we're doing something I love to do. This reminds me of being a little kid with trading cards, and we're sitting there, it's like we're almost playing, strategic, baseball. All these guys, things happen over 2-3 years. And it's fun, though, to talk about this because the Indians have really made an effort to make this to be a great farm system so they don't have to go out in free agency and fill in and year out. And I think in the economy the way it is in Cleveland, that's how this team has to do it. And I think that's great. I think that's why it's fun to read books like this. Now with Laporta, let's be honest. If he's not in the Indians uniform in the next year and a half, 2 years, people are going to look at Mark Shapiro and say that he missed on this guy. But I would say most people I talk to about him thinks he's going to be a solid pro. Question I have for you is, where does he fit position-wise with the Indians? He played a little first base last year. He's played left field. And I haven't even got to Michael Brantley yet or Trevor Crowe. I can go through a lot of names. Not that all those guys are going to make it to the big club team. But what is Matt Laporta? Is he a left fielder right now?
He'll play either one, left or first, eventually. And the thing with the whole ranking thing, I always tell people, I go, don't pay attention too much to the rankings. It's a guideline.
Okay.
It's a way where I say, if you have all these guys in the top 10, these are the guys you want to focus in on. It's subjective, obviously. But, and the thing with Laporta, and this is the thing I think you're going to see, because, it happened with the whole Cologne trade where Brandon Phillips was a headliner.
And we pushed Brandon Phillips out of here.
Well, who ended up being the headliner of that trade now?
Grady Sizemore and Cliff Lee, right.
Yeah, and that goes to my next point where I know a guy like Laporta gets all the talk, but the guy that everybody's talking about is Brantley.
That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, and it's not the Indians, it's everybody.
Baseball.
Everybody around the game. The guy does it all. I mean, obviously not going to hit a lot of home runs, but this guy is he's growing. He's 21 years old. And he's already 6'2", 210, 205, and he probably can get up to about 6'3", 220 when it's all said and done, which is a solid player, and he's going to be pounding those gaps.
Right.
And
now, he's a guy that can run a little bit.
He's got that loft, and a step below that.
Okay, now I want to say this right. I'm pretty sure I've read, and maybe it was something from you. his father was a major, or Mickey, right?
Yeah.
So you like the bloodlines, you like things like that. And it is, you're right, it is funny because it's usually the guys you barely talk about when the big trade happens that can kind of go right underneath everything. And Brantley's a guy that's been like that so far that I keep hearing people tell me, watch out for Michael Brantley. David Huff, you have his number 5. He's a name that I've kind of heard about and known about. Left-handed pitcher. Sounds something new for the Indians. We're going to be the first team that has an all left-handed starting rotation at some point in time. What kind of pitcher is David Huff?
He probably, I know a lot of people probably say, oh, he's just like Jeremy Sowers or so, but he's actually a lot more like Cliff Lee. He sits in the low 90s, can top out 93. He's aggressive. He attacks guys. He's got what kind of separates him from a guy like Jeremy Sowers or an Aaron Lappy or a Zach Jackson is he's got exceptional secondary stuff. His changeup is a devastating pitch. It's an out pitch, and his intelligence. I mean, all these things. A lot of people would comp him to a guy like Tom Glavine and those kind of things, where he gets that pinpoint control, where he can go to all 4 quadrants of the strike zone at anytime he wants. So I think he's not a guy. I don't think he has any shot to make the rotation on the spring, and it's more because of service time, because they want to hold him for 2 weeks, and then they can bring him up and it saves him a whole year. That whole thing. But I think by the middle of this year, he's going to become a fixture of this team. He's just going to be a guy they're going to rely on the next 3-4 years.
Out of all the names I've said, he'll probably be the first one that we'll see a progressive field.
Yeah.
I would jump out and guess. You got time to stay for another second?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool with that? All right, we have Tony Lastora he's here with us. We're talking about some of the guys he has in the 2009 Cleveland Indians top 100 prospects. Email us right now if you have questions about a player I haven't got to. We're having for one more segment. I'm going to get to as many of these guys as I can. You got to understand, I'm a baseball junkie. So if I don't get a guy that you want to get to, email right now at bruce@sportstimeohio.com. We'll come back with more here on this Friday edition of All Bets Are Off.